Welcome to SOLIDWORKS for the Engineering Design Process, Lesson 2, Section 5, Part 1. In this section, you'll build your first complex assembly using all the skills gained from the previous lesson sections. You will model the full windmill assembly, which you've already seen. You'll begin by making sub-assemblies of the windmill tower, the base, the shaft, and then the windmill blades. Finally, you'll bring these sub-assemblies together with the dynamo sub-assembly created in the previous lesson section to construct the full windmill assembly. You'll begin by creating a subassembly of the middle portion of the windmill. This subassembly will be composed of 5 individual parts. Create a new subassembly pin down the Begin Assembly Property Manager, and then click Browse to add the following parts: housing, bottom end, cap internal, bearing, and magnet detector. Click the green check mark to exit the Property Manager. The first step is to mate the cap with the housing. Click Mate on the Command Manager and create a concentric mate between these circular surfaces. Next, create a coincident mate between the bottom interface of the cap and the top face of the housing. The last mate you need to create between these two parts is a coincident mate between the front planes of each part. This is so they become locked together and cannot rotate relative to each other. Do this by expanding the Feature Manager design tree and then expand Housing and Cap Internal. Now select the front plane of each one to create the coincident mate. Next, you'll be mating a part called bottom end to the housing. The process is similar to the one used to mate the cap to the housing. Create a concentric mate between a circular surface of the bottom piece and a circular surface of the housing. Since the bottom part is facing the wrong direction, click Flip Mate Alignment to correct its orientation. Then, create a coincident mate between this surface of the bottom piece and the bottom surface of the housing. Finally, create a coincident mate between the two planes of the parts. Now you'll mate the bearing to the cap. The bearing is needed because this is where the windmill blades will rotate. Begin by creating a concentric mate between a circular surface of the bearing and a circular surface of the cap. Then create a coincident mate between this surface of the bearing and this inner surface of the cap. Lastly, create a coincident mate between their planes. The only part that remains to be mated is the magnet detector. Create a concentric mate between the round surface of the housing and the inner round surface of the magnet detector. Next, use a distance mate to specify how high along the housing this magnet detector will be. Create a distance mate between the bottom surface of the magnet detector and the top surface of the bottom end. Then set the distance to 127 millimeters. Click the green check mark to exit the Mate Property Manager. You have now finished the windmill tower subassembly. Take this opportunity to save.